Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm very happy to be with you here for this session, Local Perspective on District Heating and Cooling. We have already heard in the former sessions that indeed, district heating has to take place on the ground, in the cities, in the municipalities. So that's really there where the projects have to be developed, have to be implemented, have to be managed. So it's very interesting to see how these four cities have tackled these subjects, especially having in mind that these district heating systems should participate in a more sustainable city. Also in the logic of improving security of supply, with this one big question recently also with the Ukraine crisis. But also I think it's important that what the heat is delivered is to the satisfaction of the clients and also affordable. So we have a very interesting panel. I want just to present the participants. I start with the left side of the panel. It's Priit Koit. He is the CEO of Utilitas, which is the local district heating company. He joined Utilitas in 2013 to steer the group company's ambitions to switch from imported fossil fuels to local renewable sources. And before, he was working a long time in investment banking. Gloria Piaggio is coming from the city of Genoa. She is head of the Smart City department. Astrid Madsen is coming from the city of Rotterdam. She's working with the city of Rotterdam since 2000, and currently she is a senior advisor and process manager for the sustainability program focusing on district heating and cooling. And last but not least, Peter North. He is coming from Greater London Authority, covering all the boroughs of London, and he's a senior manager for sustainable energy development. Just perhaps some words to myself. I'm coming from the European Investment Bank. I'm working in the project directorate in charge of analyzing and studying projects which are submitted to us for co-financing. The European Investment Bank is a bank for investments, as the name says, owned by all the member states, by the 28 member states. Last year, we handed out some 75 billion euros of loans. Of this, some 13.5 million were for energy, so for all kinds of, for grid reinforcement development in gas or electricity. And a small share, a little bit below 1%, was dedicated to district heating. We often do this district heating in combination on joint loans with utilities, where district heating is one part of the investment, but also very often then the utilities have developments or financing needs for electricity grids or gas grids. I just want to make a short reference still to the ELENA program, because I think this might interest you. ELENA is a facility also set up by the Commission jointly with the European Investment Bank to support local authorities in setting up developing projects. So this facility is still available. There are budgets. We have financed now some 40 projects, but there are also still budget available for 2014-2015 and probably beyond. So local authorities which have already some good plans, also for example in the sector of district heating, and which are in countries where they have difficulties to develop that, are really invited. We have two projects presented today or here during this Euroheat and Power Congress. One is the work Peter North will present, district energy, and in one another session it's the local district heating company from Purmerend, which used ELENA to convert its cogeneration plant to biomass. I think this might be an opportunity for you. So let's start with the presentation. Peter will be the first. The floor is yours, please.
Okay. Well, good morning, everybody. It's already been described. I'll talk a little bit about the work that we do in London, sort of helping others develop and deliver their decentralized energy projects. But it's important to say a lot of the work we've been doing over this last 3 years has been a result of the European Union EIB funded Eleanor program, and a lot of our learning and development know-how we've then passed through to the Celsius project. It's a EU-funded project, and my two colleagues here, Gloria and Astrid, will talk perhaps a little bit about that. But we're doing this in combination with Rotterdam, Genoa, Cologne, and Gothenburg. And they all sort of fundamentally provide some form of development facility to help others develop and structure their DE projects, and that development facility is quite fundamental if we're aiming to bring forward a significant amount of district heating projects. So cities at this moment in time face increasing challenges, particularly a growth in their population, so city infrastructure, housing, schools, transport, energy will become more and more stressed. London will have 1 million more people by 2030. January this year it reached its largest ever population since 1939. And the Mayor of London's thinking in terms of London infrastructure investment plans on how he's going to meet the city's demands and requirements by 2030 and in the coming years. So I think about 50% of the world's population lives in cities now. By 2030, that will probably increase to 70%. Talking to the guys from Tallinn, they expect their population to continue to grow. So we begin to see a bit of a demand, a dilemma for cities around their energy requirements. We call it a trilemma. The issues of security of supply, where do you get your fundamental energy requirements from that are secure? It's got to be affordable for citizens. We can't bankrupt cities to do elaborate, expensive schemes. And it's got to be sustainable. And in London's terms, that really means about CO2 reductions. So the Mayor of London has environmental targets. The Mayor wants London to play its part in reducing national CO2 emissions, and he's determined that by 2025 London should reduce its CO2 emissions by 60% of 1990 levels, and he also recognises the benefits of decentralised energy, and by that we mean the generation of electricity locally, local to demand, and the recovery of waste heat for building space heating and domestic hot water production, and that displaces the use of natural gas. So that's the target that I actually work to, but also the Mayor's now revised his figures in line with national figures for 2050, where he has to aims to achieve an 80% reduction in CO2 emissions, and that effectively means we won't be using fossil fuels in our buildings by 2050. So the only reasonable alternative is the electrification of heating. And in the UK, we have a new nuclear program, maybe, and also a reliance on wind. I don't think we'll actually go all the way to that target, but it points us in a direction, and we've got to think strategically about the systems and technologies and work we do to move towards that direction. So sort of in the UK, we use more energy in heating our buildings than we do in either transport or electricity generation. So it's only in recent years that UK government have discovered this form of energy called heat, and are beginning to establish a position on that. And I think if you look at our Celsius website as well, it also reflects that the European Union uses more energy in heating than it does in any other form of activities. So when we look at London around heating, those things within the Mayor's gift to change, he carries out energy efficiency programs around existing building stock to improve their or reduce their energy consumption. He has also tries to be ambitious around the building standards for new buildings. About 80% of the buildings that will exist in 2050 already exist in London. So they really form the major part of the work that we've got to think about in terms of reducing our CO2 emissions. Just summarises again those things I said, but the interesting thing is that the secondary heat, waste heat that becomes available in London, and environmental heat, so that's from river source, sewage systems, London Underground, theoretically 24% of that recovery of that heat could meet 24% of London's heating requirements. So we've got to think sort of quite strategically about how we develop systems now and how those systems should be able to develop to meet requirements later. So we've been working to help others develop their energy projects. Started about sort of 2007, trying to lead a major project to recover heat from a major power station. But we've sort of settled down into this methodology you see in front of you here, where in the very early stages we work with London's 32 boroughs and the City of London Corporation to work with them to heat map their boroughs to establish where the most heat dense areas are and therefore where the best potential for district heating is. So district heating isn't for everywhere. There's more economic solutions in low density heat areas. But this methodology also revealed that the support we gave to boroughs, it started building capacity within local with local officers who really didn't understand decentralised energy or how to interpret the Mayor's policy requirements. So during this period of heat mapping, we also help write policy documents, core strategies, area action plans. By providing policies, it makes decision-making around planning and other decisions at a later stage far easier. So we begin to get the Mayor's ambitions and policies aligned with the borough policies, and this is quite a fundamental fundamental step really in overcoming some of the barriers. Having done this work with the boroughs, they are still asking questions. Okay, we know the most heat dense areas are. What do we do next exactly? Do we have a little gas engine here or whatever? And the methodology, the next step is the square in the middle called energy master planning. And that's where we define a particular area and work with the boroughs and potentially private sector partners to establish the extent of a market competitive heat network. And that provides evidence base, once again, for planning frameworks, planning decisions, and it also gives the borough the opportunity to get involved in delivering the project as we go through the steps of feasibility study, business planning, procurement, and then ultimately going into operation. So you can find some more information about the London Heat Map. It's now become a bit of a portal for all the information we generate. So not only does it have reports, it has the Energy Master Plan reports. We've developed the London Heat Network Manual that gives technical, commercial and planning guidance to people interested in the field. So this receives about 60,000 visits a year from sort of academics, consultants, planners, etc. And it really does concentrate all our knowledge. So it's about overcoming information barriers and being open with the information and learning that we have. Little example here of the master plan. This is round the London Borough of Greenwich, Greenwich Peninsula, where the O2 is, if you know London. We've probably completed about 14 energy master plans, and the very earliest ones now have started coming into fruition as projects in North London. The London Borough of Enfield is now establishing a heat offtake from the Edmonton Energy from Waste plant. It now has a loan facility of some £18 million from the European Investment Bank. But we did start this in about 2009. So developing energy projects, I would say, takes between three to 7 years, or maybe even longer than 7 years. So it's not something that's done overnight, and I think it's an important message to the people like the EIB and the European Union. We need more continuity than the 3-year programs that they offer if we want to guarantee delivery of projects. There's got to be far more vision. This is major infrastructure we're installing. It has a 40-year plus lifetime, and to develop that infrastructure of that magnitude, it requires quite a lot of vision. So the Eleanor facility that we benefited from, it's got this really catchy title of Decentralised Energy Project Delivery Unit, DEPDU. The successor arrangements, I'll definitely have a shorter name for it, like Energy for London, a bit like Transport for London. But we benefited from a 90% grant from the European Investment Bank, European Union's Eleanor technical assistance. It's a 3.3 million euro programme. Originally over 3 years, it was extended by a further year in order to allow some of our projects to come to fruition. And we appointed a single consultant, Arup, to provide us with the technical, financial and commercial advisory support. Importantly, it's the GLA myself who directs the consultant to look at particular projects in particular ways. So it's not about the consultant telling us how it should be done. They merely provide us with the capacity and means. So we've developed some very interesting approaches. We don't do large consultancy reports. We do very lightweight PowerPoint type reports around projects. So we're able to appoint consultants within 1 to 2 weeks. They can deliver results within 4 weeks. If you go the traditional consultancy route, it might take you, as a public sector, some 6 months to procure and get your report. So we're quite dynamic, light, fast, and it's yielded some very good results. So we're targeted to deliver around about £60.5 million projects, originally by July last year. So Mr. Bond, it's curtains for you. Really pleased to say that we've probably achieved £62 million as of last month. Probably by the end of the contract period in July, we will probably be up around 100 million, and we'll still have a residual pipeline of about 150 million pounds worth of projects that we will continue to take forward. Some early examples. This is the Gospel Oak Hospital. It's where the UK Ebola victims have been repatriated to and treated. Nothing to do with district heating, by the way, just a point of note. But the private sector company Mighty refurbished all the energy systems and installed a new gas turbine within this hospital. The hospital had a steam system, so it wouldn't recover all the heat from the gas turbine exhaust. There was a spare 2 megawatts of low temperature heat, perfect for district heating, and we helped Camden and Mighty come together and establish a heat network throughout the area, Gospel Oak area. So it's the Royal Free Hospital, and the estate is the Gospel Oak estate. So that now supplies some 1,500 dwellings with effectively, arguably, low carbon, zero carbon heat. £5.7 million programme. The important thing here is it's the social housing that will be there for many years, underpin the investment by the private sector, Mighty. South Kilburn, working with London Borough of Brent, they have a redevelopment area. They own all the land and they are demolishing buildings to replace them with new, more highly densified accommodation. They wanted decentralised energy, but they said, we've got no money for it. What can you do? The idea here is that if you own the money, if you own the land, then you've got the rights and the authority to ensure that every development that appears there would connect to the district heating network. So under this concession area idea, they've gone to the market for ESCOs and guaranteeing them that every building that will be constructed in the area will connect. One of the very important features here is you've also got to work out on the consumer end the heat tariff and the terms and conditions of heat connection, because the developers don't want to go onto this site if it's a bit of an unknown about how much heat will cost. So you've got to think from the both the production end and the heat tariff consumer end. We also have a loan facility through the London Green Fund. This was European Redevelopment ERDF funding from several years ago, in combination with GLA, Greater London Authority money, and the facilities were set up to lend some £100 million into sustainable infrastructure projects. Three, I forget what they're called now, but the funds were set up around waste, around energy efficiency, and also around later green housing projects. And I understand all the money has now been placed, but it's lending at better rates than commercial rates, different type of risk type profile. So this is a good example, not of grant giving, but of public money beginning to be focused in specific areas around green infrastructure. So here we are today thinking about using gas and energy from waste, London's sort of own fuel supply, if you like. Thinking about the future, we did a piece of work on London's secondary heat from local environmental sources and also waste heat sources. Primarily using heat pumps, but industrial size heat pumps to elevate temperatures to district heating temperatures. Theoretically, we have enough heat in London to heat ourselves, and I think it's not far off. It's very similar in Europe. I think Europe produces enough waste heat to heat itself. Not all of it's technically feasible, and in terms of carbon, not necessarily carbon efficient to produce. But this is an area of work that we'll be sort of continuing, and I think the Celsius project is fundamentally about waste heat recovery in meeting the European city needs. Yeah. But one further example is really about waste heat is the Islington's Bunhill project. They've installed 1.9 megawatt gas engine in a very small urban area. This system has a heat accumulator, you can see there. It's been clad in cedar to make it a little bit more environmentally acceptable. Further views of it there, but it's now being extended into phase 2 to recover heat from the London Underground for the purposes of heating the buildings from a low carbon energy source. District energy then, district heating is quite fun. It's quite fundamental in being able to recover available energy within the urban environment. Heat networks is an energy carrier. It's quite technology agnostic, doesn't care where the heat comes from. So investing in large-scale schemes today future-proofs as we move towards our 2050 targets, able to take different types of technology with different footprints. And as I've described there, the methodology that we've developed and that we're sharing with the Celsius cities, that will also be available to yourselves through support work and toolkits.
Thank you very much, Peter. It was interesting, very interesting. Especially, I appreciate very much the objectives of the mayor, which is very, very ambitious for 60% CO2 reduction. But also, I think it's interesting. This shows a little bit diversity. Even in London, there's not unique solution. I mean, you have to look really who is the partner, who is the main consumer. We have the hospital, we have the Islington borough also, so it's public and private enterprises coming together. I think this is very, very interesting, shows the diversity and the necessity of having really a close look how to set it up and who could be the drivers for such developments. I would like to have some two questions perhaps to get a little bit more live into the session. Are there questions now right away to Peter? Okay, then we will continue. Astrid, please tell us what is your vision for Rotterdam and district energy?
Good morning, everybody. Thank you for being here and listening to the story. I got the title "Make It Happen," and I thought, well, it is district heating, so you know. And the other questions I'm going to talk about is where, make it happen, why, and how. And let me start with the where. This is a little bit odd picture of Holland. It's a picture taken from at the beginning of April presented National Vision on Heat. And this map shows basically the residual heat in Holland. And as you can see, there are some areas where there's quite a lot of residual heat in the northern part of Holland, in the neighborhood of Amsterdam. The big dot is a steel industry, and there's also quite some residual heat in the Rotterdam area. It's about 150 petajoule of residual heat we now throw away, which is 10% or actually 12% of our annual gas use. So that's a huge, huge amount. Secondly, the area is actually very good for geothermal recovery of geothermal heat. So we have a lot of heat supply. We also have a lot of heat demand, so that's 1 and 1 is 2. If you look at the whole area, it's in total 112 petajoule. The blocks are the biggest ones. They don't add up to 112 because, well, the houses in between are also heated, of course. And important is to understand that this is also an area where there's a lot of greenhouses, and they use also a lot of energy, heat energy. For Rotterdam, this is our current state. The green lines are our current district heating network. As you can see, the city center is green. After the Second World War, we had to rebuild our city, and we built it immediately with a district heating network. And the new built areas on the top side are areas that were built in periods of oil crisis when the gas prices were high, and district heating suddenly was a very good idea. Our total district heating network is connected to a waste incinerator plant. So we don't use fossil energy to create heat for the base load. And the heat is transported by 2 pipelines. The yellow one, it was realized in 2014 and owned by Eneco. And the bottom one is realized in 2013. It's a 26-kilometer long pipeline that connects the south of Holland, south of Rotterdam, and it's owned by Warmtebedrijf Rotterdam, which is where the city of Rotterdam is main stakeholder. So, why would we do this? Well, I think I can skip through it. I think everything has been mentioned all day, and I think you all know the reasons. It's about the emission reductions. It's about the dependency of fossil fuels. It's about having good competition also for companies. It's having about affordable energy and so forth. I would like to talk a little bit about this picture. What this picture is, and I probably need to explain it a little bit. This is about buildings, about households. And the solid blue line says something about the amount of investment you need to make in order to improve your energy label of the building. So with a bad energy label, it takes little money to improve your building. And with that, and that's the green line, you save energy costs. So at the beginning, investing in your building, insulating, is a very effective, cost-effective way. But as the energy label of a building improves, the costs to further improve your building, the prices rise exponentially, while the benefits do not rise, or actually they drop a bit. So there comes a point where you should consider whether it's cost-effectively to invest in a building. And that's the point where you should consider alternatives like district heating, because they are, especially for the better insulated houses, a more cost-effective solution. So that's one of the reasons why we look into district heating, especially in dense areas, because as Peter already said, it's not a one-size-fits-all solution. There are places where district heating is not the best solutions, but there are places where it is. Okay, so how do we go about it? Well, basically go through 4 steps. First, you have to understand what problems do we face, and we have a problem with the image in Holland, also already mentioned. It's considered old-fashioned. It's a monopoly. Are the prices fair? We do have regulations in Holland that state that you should not pay more than a gas comparison, but still it's a theoretical sum, and then obviously you have sometimes your personal case. It's not, you cannot compare. So there's quite some image, and we need to, well, the consumer point of view needs to be more on the agenda. We have rules and regulations that are actually not level playing field. On one hand, we say you should compare to gas. On the other hand, the gas network is well, realized in a socialized state. So the state built the gas network, while district heating is not. It's a private plan. So you have a little bit of problems there. And the third also already mentioned the finance. It's a little bit difficult to enter a bank and say, listen, I need a lot of money because it's quite expensive. It's a high risk because I'm not sure the business case will, I don't know when and if I get enough connections. And by the way, if I get it, it's a low interest case. I mean, the number of banks that step on my doorstep saying, well, we want to invest are none. So that's quite an interesting problem. And I think in finance, with the Elena funds, it's possible to do the business case phase. If you have your system in place and if you have a little bit solid business case, even then you get finance with different funds. But there's a gap. There's a gap between development and having a little bit more mature district heating network, and that gap we need to bridge, and that is the problem we face, and that all together, of course, intercombines with the business case that is at this moment very hard to realize. So that's the understanding part. Then you have to have a plan, and I think what is important is that you have to have a plan as concrete as possible. And well, basically we have in Rotterdam we have a plan together with a lot of partners in the area, and this is the plan of the heat roundabout. The black lines are already there. It's also the dotted lines. And the red one is the plan, and the idea is to build a heat roundabout that basically connects residual heat and geothermal heat to the demand areas. And we are now working together to make business cases, really detail these business cases in what route can you take, what kind of business case works best, and really getting into the details so that you could go back to your initial financial questions and rules and regulations, be more specific about the problems you have, because we passed the state of general yeah, we do have financial problems. Now they come back and say, well, what kind of financial problems? How much is it? And how, what kind of rules and regulations do you need? So we need to get more into detail and more specific about our problems. This is for the region. As for Rotterdam itself, we also are looking into more strategic planning. So more specifically per area, look at the best combination of solutions and define what kind of steps needs to be taken. So have a plan. Work together and work together internationally or just work together, share information, well, events like this, but also with the Celsius program. And I will stop talking about it because Gloria is going to talk a little bit more about it. But I think sharing information, sharing knowledge is a very good thing. I do agree on this morning's comment on what Tim made, is that you have to translate the information to make it suit your own culture and your own project, but still you can learn from each other. Well, work together also regionally, and I think work together, although you have to have a plan that is very detailed, I also think you have to start with an ambition and have to start with a shared ambition. As for the heat roundabout, we have now 25 public and private partners who all state in 2020 we want to realize 20 petajoule of sustainable energy. And with that, we have a common ground we can talk about. And together with energy companies, cities, housing corporations, and so on, we try to build the business case and we try to make it more specific. And of course, also work together locally. And also there we have a shared ambition. We all said we want sustainable, affordable, reliable district heating or heating. And we said that we would like to connect half of our houses towards the city network. And we work together with the most important stakeholders in the city. And this picture is one of the planning tools we have to see what kind of areas are most suitable for district heating. So we try to, as a city, we try to provide the companies with information and bind them together and make them work on the plan. And last but not least, I think we should synergize, or better, I think we have to step over our differences between different solutions. What I see in Holland sometimes, that there seems to be a weird kind of competition between all electric solutions and heat pumps and district heating and solar panels. As we were fighting over connecting or making sustainable our last 10,000 houses, our last 5%. We only have 5% sustainable energy. We've got 95% to do. We need all solutions. So I think it's important that we start to recognize that there are areas where certain sets of measures are more appropriate than other areas. So for example, district heating, very useful in greenhouse areas, very useful in dense cities, but in rural areas with ground-bound houses, more spread, well, maybe all electric is a better solution together with a heat pump, with solar panels, go for it. But we have to learn to leave room for the better solution, and at the same time we have to combine solutions together. So not only district heating, also insulating our houses and making it in the end also better for the end user. And then, well, the title was Make It Happen, but we already made a lot happen. I think it's important to, and this is my last slide, we tend to always look forward and the steps we still have to take, but we already, although not at the rate in the Nordic countries, but still we made a lot of things happen. And this is drilling the pipeline under a harbor in the middle of the city. And what I just want to say with this picture is well, work together. I mean, if one guy doesn't work with the others, we had a problem. And the second thing is, I think we can do a lot. Technically seen, we are smart enough. So let's just make it happen. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Astrid. It was very interesting. Also, the aspects. What I was very much pleased by is the cooperation also with industry, using industrial waste heat, and also the capacity of associating different partners. I mean, because you know also probably that the Netherlands is very much gas-driven. The gas penetration rate is quite high, so you always have this as a competitor. And so the question is how to get around this and find solutions which are interesting for all partners involved. Okay, then let's continue with Gloria and what she's doing in Genoa, and also some information of the Celsius project. Please.
Good morning, everyone. My name, as you see, is Gloria Piaggio, and I'm head of the Smart City Department in the municipality of Genoa. We have started working on our smart city some years ago, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about it very quickly, and then tell you something about the Celsius project. I have to keep within my time. So Genoa, just to give you an idea, many of you might not know it, is the 6th largest city in Italy. It has around 600,000 people. And very differently from everybody else, our population is diminishing. It goes down. We don't really understand why, but it does. We have a very concentrated population because we have 243 square kilometers, but most of the population is concentrated in the town, which is sandwiched between mountains and the sea. This means that we have very difficult mobility because things climb up among ancient buildings. We have killer floods, also an effect of climate change that has been raising the amount of floods. You probably are aware of the floods in Cinque Terre, which many of you might have visited, which create landslides and killer floods. We have the port. A port that means moving goods and people. It limits growth. We don't go into the sea. We have energy from the sea. We can have energy from the sea, not necessarily have it. We have pleasure and leisure. Genoa was one of the biggest industrial cities in Italy, but now it has been deindustrialized for around 40 years, and it's still looking for its vocation, which is port and high-tech industry and culture. But this has created unemployment and brain drain. Our people leave, young people leave and go away from Genoa. We have a beautiful ancient town with complex safety and security, beautiful palaces in which it is difficult to act refurbishment because they are all listed in heritage, world and national heritage. So we started on the smart city process aware of energy, but we realized it was more than that, the smart city. It was lighter backpacks, a safe city, planning, proper planning of goods and movements, easy information, less CO2. It was quality of life, in other words. So we defined our smart city as a city that improves quality of life through sustainable economic development based on research and innovation and led by the local leadership, which finds again a role in a system where we have spending reviews that cuts the choices that politicians can make at local level, and in a process of integrated planning, not very common in Latin countries. We usually do things as they are, so we tend not to be very good planners, even though our forefathers, the Romans, were excellent, but so we have to go towards an integrated planning. We created an association, the Genova Smart City Association, which involves over 90 members coming from institutions, all the local institutions, research, all sort of research companies, big business and small business, and civil society, either through associations or through charities or people we know that help us together try and plan and find the better ways to promote the transformation of Genoa towards a smart city. As my colleagues also said before, involvement and having citizens and all sorts of stakeholders on your side is an essential step after the political commitment. We also have one European project. We are the only city to have won the 2012 European Smart Cities and Communities Call through Transform, which is a smart planning and strategic planning project. It's finishing now in June, and we did it with Amsterdam, Copenhagen, Hamburg, Lyon, Vienna, and it has delivered a handbook on how to become a smart city, ambitious. Then we have our two cities we do with Valladolid and Kartal in Turkey on retrofitting, refurbishment of districts. Again, the money was aimed at trying to find innovative ways of acting on existing social housing. Then we have Celsius. Now, Celsius is very interesting. It is led by Gothenburg, and as Peter said before, and Astrid, it has Cologne, Genoa, London, and Rotterdam working together with a number of very, very high-quality research and business partners from all countries. And we aim at having smart district heating and cooling. But I like to underline that, as my colleague said before, it is capturing waste heat generated within the cities every day. We're going to go very rapidly into what this means. The partnership, as you see, includes London School of Economics, Imperial College, TU Delft, but also the Polonia, Reinhard, many important companies that are working together in this 5-year project that is halfway through and has seen lots of very interesting developments. So what do we have? We have enough waste heat produced in the EU to heat its entire building stock. This is what numbers tell us. But what happens that we do not have distribution network available to transform it from where it is produced to where you actually need it. So lots of heat goes in the air. And this is what Celsius has concentrated on trying to find demonstrators that show that sometimes you can get heat and use it in the district heating in a network. So we have Gothenburg, which is has 100% district heating, but is trying to attach new venues to the district heating, such as the ferry boats or sports centers with washing machines. London and Rotterdam you have heard about. In Cologne, they are heating schools with heat coming from the sewage. In Genoa, we are adding a turbo expansor to the pipeline that brings gas and goes into the gas network, so that we get energy from there and have a micro network of district heating. Because we're speaking about cities like Gothenburg, which have 100% district heating and cooling, and Genoa, which has only 2%. And we will see some of the reasons why this is so difficult. I think also London has a low percentage, but we must all try to work towards an ambitious goal. Of course, there are many barriers to this, like the directive of energy performance, the way it is applied in each country, whether it's measuring the energy, the final energy consumption, or the primary energy consumption, promotes or does not promote the use of district heating. The same happens with the EU carbon cap and trade system that gives, in a sense, promotes small-scale acting of implementation and other regulations. So Celsius has studied this, and together with London School of Economics, we have produced a deliverable that concerns the regulatory framework affecting district heating and cooling. I know also we had a card distributed concerning some of the legal aspects. So this is essential, especially in countries that are far behind in this. So what are some of the barriers? The cost of the infrastructure in a city like Genoa, where we only have 2%, it will be very high. We have good weather. This means a longer playback period that makes the case less interesting. And Gothenburg, for example, had this year a drawback in experimenting its pilot project because the weather was too good, so they could not really test what they had planned. So we are happy for them, but it made it more difficult. The business case for energy companies, so they sell gas. What advantage do they have in spending money in an infrastructure and selling gas again? So this has to be considered. Then we have a pulverized ownership. In Italy, 70% of people own their own apartments, and 50% have their own boiler at home. So this makes very complicated issue. We have the single boilers. And then we have the case of what we call the old lady in the fifth floor, who might not agree because she says, Peter, no offense please, but she says, I'm not interested. I'm 75 years old. Why should I spend any money in making things smarter that I'm not going to live to see? An important aspect in Celsius is to have replication. Replication means trying to convince other cities to take up the idea of district heating and cooling and promote it, possibly using the results from the demonstrators that we have used. We have 7 Celsius cities, as we call them, the replication cities that have already accepted. That's Ghent, Villa de Cans, Athens, Warsaw, Gdynia, Gdansk, and Riga, that are going to follow what we have to offer, and I'm going to tell you shortly what it is that we have to offer to support the new Celsius cities. So we have toolboxes. We have called them social, technical toolbox. We have a roadmap that we can help you build, and we can use our demonstrators to offer you our Celsius toolbox and make you become a Celsius city. This sounds like a marketing. It is, in the sense that because of district heating and cooling's importance, one of the reasons why the project was approved was that it declared that it wanted to share its experience and its high knowledge with other cities to help promote the system. So it is a way of promoting it. What does a social toolbox include? It includes help in business models and stakeholder acceptance that, as we saw before and we've seen through those days, are essential in making district heating and cooling happen. We have technical toolbox where we can offer upscaling technologies and concepts concerning end user demand, peak shaving, system temperature levels, waste heat, ICT, and many other aspects that have been tested in the cities. We can help build the roadmap, which means building blocks to become a Celsius city concerning ICT, heat storage, waste heat, the planning, the macroeconomic rationale, helping politicians be convinced about it. And we can use also the demonstrators in the 5 cities with replicable examples of system integration, end user acceptance, infrastructure, and so on and so forth. So the new Celsius cities, we are asked to engage with us in early communication, discussing their interest in being part of the process. Then they fill out a questionnaire so that we can understand at what point of the roadmap towards district heating and cooling they are. Then we we discuss why and how, so we identify the needs of the city. We get a letter of commitment, an official letter of commitment signed by the politicians saying that they want to become part of this Celsius process. And then we give our offering, which means sending our experts, analyzing technically and in detail what the situation is and how we can help you develop this. There is no money in this, there is expertise offered. Traveling is not paid by Celsius, but believe me, the level, the quality of what we can offer is very, very high. So this can really help you become a city with district heating and cooling in an easier way. So thank you very much, and I'm here if you wanted to ask any questions.
Okay, thank you very much, Gloria, for this presentation. I think also interesting the approach that a comprehensive approach that different aspects of such a subject as developing district heating or district cooling needs to be tackled, and I think such support can be quite valuable. So last but not least, Priit, please show us what is happening here in Tallinn in district heating. And perhaps the question, is this hotel also supplied by you?
It actually is, yes. So
it's warm here, it's quite warm.
It's warm. I heard it's very warm. It's well, it's a good venue for a congress of such, because it's actually heated by district heating from our networks, and I checked from our operators, it's 8 degrees outside, and 30% of heat is currently supplied from our biomass-fired CHP. The second 30% is currently coming from waste-to-energy plant, which many of you will visit tomorrow. And the rest, 40% is currently from gas-fired boilers. So the story I'm about to tell is how we want to make sure that if we meet in, let's say, 2 years' time, then it would be 100% renewable energy that would be coming via pipes to this building. And maybe they renovate the building so that it's not so hot as well. And, let me see. Okay. So it's a true honor to host this Congress in Tallinn. We have inherited large-scale district heating networks, and roughly 70% of heat sold in Tallinn is sold via district heating networks. So we have a high penetration. We obviously have our historic past, and our challenges are largely related on making sure that we modernize the network, we modernize the fuel supply so that we can keep up with the global developments, be it environmental policies, be it security of supply or independence of independence of supply from foreign sources. I am probably also the only one representing the private part of this this public-to-private partnership. Utilitas is the largest district heating company in Estonia. We operate in 8 cities, one of them being Tallinn, and we sell roughly 1.8 terawatt hours of heat per year and 170 gigawatt hours of electricity per year. So in all 8 cities where we operate, obviously it's a close cooperation with the municipality, because that's the only way to develop this, and then there needs to be a vision from the municipality side supporting the district heating aspirations and possibilities. Estonia is a cold country, so obviously heat takes up the largest share of energy consumption. Roughly 43% of total heat being used, total energy being used as heat. It's more important for households. So roughly 60% of heat is used by of energy is used as heat by private households, and out of this, half, if you take the entire Estonia, is supplied via district heating. So the penetration is high in urban areas. It's 70%. Roughly 370,000 households are supplied by this district heating in Estonia. So of course it's a large share, and it's a very large component of the individual expenditures. So for an average household expenditure, heat constitutes roughly 6.6%. So it's the largest utility bill, but at the same time it's not so overly expensive that it wouldn't allow to focus not just on price, but also to have the other policy ambitions in mind, much like energy efficiency, energy independence, supporting the increase of renewable sources. So and in very many cases it is actually cheaper to do that. We have already executed the fuel switch program in all other networks than Tallinn, in all other 7 cities. And the recent examples have actually led to a decrease of 25% when we've switched from gas-fired generation to local biomass-fired new plants. So it actually can be cheaper as well. But of course the investments are large, and one needs to take a long-term view and vision, and make sure that the regulation is intact also going forward. In Tallinn, roughly 2/3 of heat is supplied by Tallinna Küte. That means 130,000 households, and lion's share being residential, but also commercial and state and municipality are served. In 2004, the city of Tallinn implemented a zoning requirement that means that where the existing heat networks were already in place, these were called district heating zones, and for new construction it is the preferred alternative. So the first priority is given to district heating when either renovating or building new houses. So it's a vision. It's been in place, and obviously it helps to sustain the high penetration and get the other benefits from district heating. Naturally, this coincides with regulation. So all our sales are regulated by Estonian Competition Authority, meaning long payback times, being equal to the technical lifetime of investments. So if it's a new production facility, it's 20 to 25 years. If it's networks, it's even longer. So it's a long-term vision again, and a long-term commitment from the private partner side as well. So it goes hand in hand. So essentially, any benefits from for example, a change in fuels is directly and to the full extent passed on to the consumers. So if we switch to biomass, we just don't need to be a bit cheaper than gas, but actually it's a regulated price which can be substantially cheaper. So it's a good way of operating. Tallinn is also it's squeezed between the lake Ülemiste and the sea, so it's stretched out, meaning long networks, and inherited from the times when the planners didn't particularly care about energy efficiency in buildings, and also expected that there would be a substantial addition to the population. So the largest diameter of our networks is 1.2 meters, and so it's a massive system. In 2011, the networks, historically there were 3 different networks. In 2011, these were connected. So now base load can be supplied throughout the system, and this is also done. So the production is concentrated to the eastern side. It's a more rural area, old limestone quarry, so the production is there. There's the waste-to-energy plant, there's the biomass CHP, and another biomass CHP that we are building alongside the existing one. So 60% of the baseload heat, starting from end of next year, will be supplied from these plants. And our ambition is really to reverse the fuel mix in production in Tallinn. So in 2008, 100% was supplied from gas. In 2009, our first biomass-fired CHP was commenced. In 2014, the Iru waste-to-energy plant started to chip in as well. So now we are roughly 40% non-fossil, 60% fossil. End of next year, we will have the next biomass-fired CHP in place, and to continue with yet another biomass-fired plant on the western side of Tallinn. So by year 2018, we expect that the share of fossil fuels would be just 20% of the annual sales, and it's not economical to go beyond that because it's really peak load boilers. We have existing capacity in our gas-fired plants, and what it means is that that is approximately 165 million cubic meters of imported natural gas, which we don't need to import anymore because of this fuel switch. It's more than 1/5 of total natural gas consumption in Estonia. It also means that we don't need to pay 50 million euros each year outside suppliers, because the biomass is all sourced from Estonia locally. We are among the most forested countries in Europe. And it also means that we cut the CO2 emissions by more than 200,000 tons each year. We also have a view that in order for the district heating networks to be sustainable going forward, we need to make maximum use of the benefits of primary energy savings. And we are currently heating roughly 130,000 households, and actually the 2 plants that currently supply our network, they generate enough electricity in the same process that is used by the same 130,000 households. So we don't sell directly, obviously. Electricity goes via Nord Pool, but basically the same housing block uses both green heat and green electricity if they choose so. And also to take a wider vision, Tallinn takes a lot of pride in its public transportation. So a few years back, an initiative was launched whereby now, if you are a citizen of Tallinn, you can ride public transportation for free. So you don't need to pay anything. You just need to register. So it's a plan. Well, you don't have free lunch, obviously, so it's paid somewhat, but it's a good way to promote public transportation and increase the share here. Yeah, it has led to investments into public transportation infrastructure, and it also has you see new trams which ride the same new infrastructure. But of course, to complete the story, one needs to see where this electricity comes from that powers these trams. And starting from this year, actually 100% of electricity used by public transportation system in Tallinn is generated in the same biomass CHP that is supplying heat to our district heating network. So it's basically 100% renewable, 100% local, and so if you take a tram, then that's what you get. Our future challenges, well, naturally, we've inherited a network and high penetration, but we also inherited a lot of housing stock which needs to be renovated. So let's say the 1.5 annual decrease in sales volumes prescribed by the Energy Efficiency Directive, well, that's how it actually decreases because of installation. So we need to work hard to make sure that we get new connections. We all attended the event last night in Seaplane Harbour, and I saw the bus had to take some detours. That's because our pipe extension works. So sorry about that, but that's part of it. Northern part of Tallinn is currently the most popular development site, and obviously we are going there. We're trying to get the ones who are already there to get them connected to the network, and also to promote this for any new developments. And in line with this decrease in consumption, we obviously are required to be more and more efficient every day. We do that via renovation of networks, massive investment plan for that, and focused on large diameter networks to both save on losses, network losses, and also to ensure that the supply is actually there when needed. And also we are making use of ICT opportunities. We're installing remote metering for all clients by the end of next year, so that we actually can take another step, both optimization of our networks, but also so that we can turn a bit towards the customer side and to provide them more and more information as to what they can do to maybe tune their substation better, or alternatively just compare to the neighboring houses and what they could do to save costs over there. So this is what we want to do. And as a summary, I think what we are doing in relation to the fuel switch, increasing the share of cogeneration, saving on cost related to network losses. We trust that this is our contribution to actually making sure that district heating remains the preferred alternative for heating Tallinn. Tallinn is applying for the award, or trying to be nominated for European Green Capital in 2018. So, well, we naturally are doing our small share as private partners in this ambition. Also in 2018, we will have the presidency of the Council of the European Union in January-June 2018. So this is also, I trust that by that time, most of the meetings will be held in meeting rooms heated by renewable heat, and most of the laptops will be powered by renewable electricity generated in the same process, and maybe if someone takes a tram at that time, it will also be fully green. So that's our ambition by that time. Thank you.
So thank you very much, Priit. It's always impressive to see how companies in the district heating field work on the ground in the field and develop the activities, especially I think reaching a level of 80% from biomass and of waste incineration is very, very, very good example of how how this tool, district heating, can be implemented and used for the purpose of sustainable energy reduction of CO2 emissions, etc. So now the floor is open. Questions, please. We shall take 2 or 3 first. The lady, please. Could you present yourself shortly? No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. My name is Anaïs Rochefort. I work for the Association of Decentralized Energy. I've got a question for Astrid. You mentioned that the business case for district heating is not always easy to make for banks. So how do you overcome the financial barrier? What are your approaches to finance the cost of the infrastructure?
Perhaps we shall take several, no? Other additionals? Oh, then go ahead, please. I thought there was more.
That's a good question. If anybody has the answer, please let me know. No, it is actually still a big struggle. One of the things we do is to make it as concrete as possible. So really get into detail and be very specific about what we need, instead of having a sort of general image. So that's one. And with being more specific, we also trying to really look into our growth in the demand side. So how to connect the households and the greeneries. So, but to be honest, at this moment we haven't solved the problem yet, and it's also because we don't have a 100% clear business case yet. We still are in development, but it is a very big problem.
Okay. Please.
Vytautas Stasiūnas, Lithuanian District Heating Association. I have 2 questions to Mr. from Tallinn District Heat Company. What you are planning to do with existing equipments, CHP, ERO, boilers, turbines and generators, because they are using natural gas, yes? And second question, are you planning to connect customers in Tallinn which was disconnected before, and to have they like your customer?
Please.
Yes, thank you. Iru power plant, historically, Iru was built to supply heat to Tallinn and based on natural gas. That's true. Right now, they have also built a waste to energy part next to the same power plant. So this is what supplies heat to our network right now. The power plant is owned by Estonian Energy, so it's not owned by us. And gas is not really competitive at this point in time, and also so it's not really up to us to see what would happen there or whether this would be closed down or not. But it's rather whether it's competitive in the market heat-wise going forward. Also, many of these plants have been installed already, and the equipment has been installed decades ago. So one needs to make a lot of investments to make sure that they reach all the emission standards and so on. So at some point in time, it doesn't really become efficient to make such investments, particularly because we see that the same volumes are being replaced by waste or biomass. So the general consumption in Tallinn decreases. So obviously, if you have new capacities coming online, then something is just expiring. And about connecting the existing or the previously connected customers, of course, our ambition is to connect or provide a solution to every customer. We lack any possibility to force them to connect, but rather it's we need to be competitive. We need to make sure that the solution is there if they want to connect.
Okay. If not, I would have a question to the panel. We have heard that, or you also describe very often that you need some political decision or also driving forces to go ahead with such projects, because I mean this is not a single one can build, for example, a wind turbine. Different partners have to get together. Also, analysis of the heat demand has to be carried out. So, what is, from your point of view, the main positive impact you have in your situation from the political level, which helped you to start to develop this project? Who wants to start? Please.
If we don't get in, when you're building heat networks in the urban environment, they're very much politically led because of the long payback times, etc. So if the politics aren't there, the project really doesn't happen. So certain boroughs have priorities around affordability of heat, carbon reduction, and heat networks can help deliver those priorities. So they're sort of perhaps easy wins. But when you move into a borough that has good opportunity, but it has no history or track record of heat networks, it becomes substantially more difficult. You can do a certain amount of development work at officer level to frame the opportunity in terms of the economics and how it delivers priorities. However, if you can't get it onto the political agenda, it probably just stays at the officer level and doesn't proceed too much further. So one of the examples we have is with Royal Borough of Greenwich doing a district heating project in conjunction with Transport for London. They have an old power station there that we can retrofit with CHP. We found that the officers were facing a lack of direction at director level or lack of support, apparent lack of support. We introduced the Mayor of London in January to actually be involved with making major announcements about the Transport for London end of the project. Invited the Greenwich chief exec along and their new political leader, and they were completely thrilled by the project with the help of the mayor as well. And now we see at officer level there's more direction and clarity, more commitment to budget, and the whole thing's moving forward. And if this comes off 2017, it'll be a fabulous project. But I can point to that one key moment on January the 8th in the morning when the mayor pressed the go button on an existing gas turbine there and said what brilliant things we're going to do. And the Greenwich politicians and leaders were on camera giving their excited support to the project.
Good.
Well, I think first the national vision on heat is really helpful for Holland, because it, for the first time, explicitly states that district heating or the heating question is on the agenda. So that definitely helps. And I think having cities and as well as on province level an active role does help. For example, if you look at the heat roundabout, it's driven by the province of South Holland. Okay. They initiated the cooperation of the 25 private and public partners, and making now the business case for a part of the heat roundabout started with a political decision that a business case should be made. So it started with the 4 cities and the province stated you go and find and make your business case, and then we collected also the private partners there, and a lot of energy has been put in by the cities as well as the private companies. And we also see it for another part of the heat roundabout, the connection between Rotterdam and Leiden, which is another city. There we have a sort of a cooperation agreement between the 2 cities stating that heating is important, and what you see is just saying as a city we find district heating important, we would like to make it happen, not even with saying that we're going to pay for it, but but just making sure that's on the agenda gives some space also for the private companies to work on it and have a sort of security. Okay, well, it's not that tomorrow they say that district heating is not anymore on the agenda. So it really helps, I think, the process.
In our case, the political commitment was the starting point, and I think this, as Peter said before, is essential for everyone. The politician doesn't need to know exactly the technical details or how technically feasible this is, but he or she needs to give a green light for a long-term strategic vision. So that was essential in our case. We called it smart city process, but I mean the idea of, however, protecting environment and climate action, etc. Then you need the concrete actions that deriving from this political commitment. In our case, it was the Covenant of Mayors and the CIAP, which started helping everyone understand data, numbers, and what we could do. For district heating and cooling, in our peculiar situation of having not a very, very advantageous business case for the time being, there was a political pressures. That means that the municipality owns a very small percentage of the energy company. And the energy company had a district heating, a small district heating and cooling project in the drawer. So we asked them to pull it out at a political level and to use it independently from the exact correspondence of the theoretical business plan corresponding to the company's desires in that specific moment. So there was a sort of political positive pressure on driving the private companies towards district heating and cooling or all sorts of climate actions.
Okay, good.
For us also, it's well, the action has to be on each and every level. So first of all, for a long-term vision, and then a lot on day-to-day action. So. We're lucky to see that the long-term vision is more and more in line with our views of decarbonizing Europe, decarbonizing Estonia. We see that we just had recently elections in the new coalition agreement. It is clearly stated that by the year of 2030. 80% of heat should be supplied from biomass or waste. So we'll get there much earlier. But we need a long-term vision and we need day-to-day support from the planning department in the cities, and it's a partnership between the private and the public parties.
Okay. Good. Well, yeah, please.
Thank you. Rutta van Boven, Gasunie. I have a question also related to this long-term vision, because I understand specifically at the political level, one of the driving forces is the possibility to integrate renewables in district heating and waste heat. And well, there's on the very long term, you see that, or the expectation is that there's less residual heat because eventually, well, energy efficiency standards are being higher. And also some of the residual heat comes, for example, from fossil fuels power plants. And I'm wondering what your views on that and what the political role can be to provide a long-term vision on whether this residual heat will be available and what role it can play in the business cases when you develop those networks.
Okay, thank you. There's still another question, because if not, we will have the last words from the panelists, and afterwards would be time to go for lunch. Okay, then we start again with Peter.
Okay, I'll take you to task over the word renewables. I struggle with renewables. We have renewable incentives. We have people building businesses around renewable incentives. We have really perverse projects in the UK whereby major coal-fired plant converts to burning huge amounts of biomass, probably 30% efficiency, and we should be thinking this as a scarce resource and using it properly and appropriately. But it also distorts the work that I do in trying to build projects at the largest possible scale, because the economics are there and all the risk factors that come with that. Yet there's short-term renewable incentives that present alternatives, competition to the projects that I deal with. So I think the sort of UK Department of Environment change view, and my view is renewables is part of the toolkit, but it isn't everything. You try and get renewables into a dense urban environment like London, it's virtually impossible. Photovoltaics, very limited. Biomass, we're not going to import biomass. We've already in breach of our air quality limits, and burning biomass with NOx and particulates will just exacerbate that. Anyway, that's my moaning over, sorry. I think the waste heat with increased population, increasing use of air conditioning through commercial and sort of reasons of climate adaptation, waste heat in some form is probably here to stay, particularly in sort of growing urban environments. I wouldn't build a business case around waste heat. Waste heat is just one of the many contributors of energy that can go into a district heating system. So in fact, it adds to the diversity, and you could argue the business case on a diverse range of energy sources being available. Ultimately, we can still use heat pumps in some fashion from some source. So I think it just adds to the mix, but it just demonstrates the flexibility heat networks have around different energy sources and how technology agnostic they are.
Thank you. I completely agree with the whole biomass thing. I mean, in the harbor of Rotterdam, we throw away so much heat, and if you look at the whole renewable discussion, it seems to be better to keep on throwing that amount of energy away and build next to it a biomass CHP that imports biomass from either Norway or Canada, because we don't have enough biomass in the country. So I on a personal level agree with your comments, but more specific, if you look at the heat roundabout we have, for a part we build our business case at current state on residual heat, I would prefer to call it, out of the harbor area, but specifically we built a heat roundabout with the idea of being able to connect new sources like geothermal sources, and in time you hope that it enables to decrease maybe both heat demand and supply, and with more efficient industry maybe you get less heat from the industry, but you have other sources, and by having a system and transport backbone system you can connect, and it, well, in long time future maybe even instead of having heat from the industry towards greenhouses, you have geothermal sources that can bring heat to the industry. So I think at the current state, basing business case on the sources you have is not a big problem, as long as you have a long-term view and make sure that new sources and maybe better sources, whatever they are called or maybe, are able to join in the whole system. So that's a bit how we work on it, and not so much. One of the things we look at very explicitly is to avoid a lock-in, so that you have a system that's completely dependent on waste energy or residual energy of one energy company, and then they have to run. So we want to avoid lock-ins, and that's why we have a huge system.
I don't have much to add, apart from the fact that there's still so much waste energy available that the long-term vision needs to include it. Then, of course, it is a matter of steps. So in subsequent steps, we will go towards less fossil fuels and less waste of energy. But for the time being, at least in Mediterranean countries, there is still a long way to go, and a big amount of space to use waste heat and bring it into the system.
Thank you. We also believe that the future is in reducing the amount of waste heat, or reducing the amount of energy wasted overall. That is why I'm in line with the ideas that one shouldn't just burn biomass, which is a scarce resource, depending on where you come from. But well, we have an abundance, but nevertheless, if it's just built in an electric power plant and most of the heat is wasted, then it makes no sense. Then it's not the way how you should run this. Whereas if you can use the district heating networks, can make use of both the electricity and heat generated in the same process, then this is a ways to go, and this is where you have less of this, energy wasted in the process. So I think that's the future.
Okay, thank you very much. I think I hope that you had some got some new ideas, new inspiration from our four panelists and from their experience in concrete terms on developing district heating. I think there were very interesting ideas which could help you and us in the future also to continue to develop this. I would like to give a big hand to the panelists. Thank you very much also for your attention, your participation. I think now the buffet for lunch is open, and I think this starts in 1 hour, the next sessions. Thank you very much.